Oh, welcome back to some Dark Cloud 2. It has been a bit, and I kind of got to get into the essence of what I'm doing here. So let's see. We're all good there from a health perspective. Okay. Cool. So I don't think I'm incorrect in believing I'm kind of just in a place where I'm grinding and working through the current dungeon. So that's cool by me. We'll head on over there and kind of just make our way through it. Which I'm fine with right now. I'm cool to just chill, fight some stuff. Ugh. It's been an interesting set of weeks. I mean, I'd say not in a bad sense, but you know, kind of. My personal health wasn't all that great. More just sick, not like drenched in some sort of horrible illness, which is something I guess I have to make a point of, because I unfortunately have had a few friends, even though I'm pretty young relatively, right? The grand scheme of things, I'm not an old man, but I've had a few folks my age have issues with cancer, and that sucks. So I try to keep a good sense of gratefulness, I guess. I know it's not automatic to be healthy. It's not given. And there's tons of folks. Oh, God. Not really what I wanted here. Lots of folks who deserve better and don't get it. Oh, that being said, you know, because I've seen so many young folks have issues like that, I really do have to stress not looking the other way with stuff that's concerning, right? Like, I had a buddy, and he unfortunately has passed since. He ended up getting brain cancer. And the story goes that he didn't really go to the doctor, despite other symptoms, up until the point where he was effectively becoming blind in one eye. Now, you know, it's tough to talk about, just in like the sense of that's such a him choice, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. As someone who like cared about that person and thinks it's sad that they passed away, it is also hilariously fitting that they didn't go and get something checked up until like such a dire point had arrived. That's a funny thing, you know, about death, if I'm being honest with you. There are funny parts. You kind of think, oh no, it's nothing but macabre and awful and horror. And that's there. Don't get me wrong. But there's also like incredibly awkward or funny, just deeply uncomfortable elements about death. And when you have to spend any time around it, you kind of make peace with that in a weird way. I mean, I have a background in grief therapy, right? So before I switched over into the world of IT and software that I've been in for years now, I originally thought, well, I'd like to use all of the experiences that I've had, positive and negative and horrible, all combined, and hopefully that coalesces into a type of useful wisdom. And I can then go and be a person in a position of talking about and dealing with people's grief, and I can help. And I'm not going to say that I haven't in my life had the potential or done that, but I also have, I guess, some other elements of my personality that made it tough for people to trust me to do that. Maybe it's my physical appearance, maybe it's a lack of preference for strict formality. Maybe it's just like in what one person told me in an interview is I have too many tattoos to be taken seriously. Who knows, right? Whole thing is a big world. But I didn't always end up doing that, but I wanted to. Kind of forgetting where I went with that now. Oh, right, yeah, just because I spend a lot of time in that world. And like I've had deaths in my family. You know, my dad has been dead for, geez. I mean, I say most of my life. Like, he was around, and I know there was a period of my life where, like, I had a dad. But it's definitely weird to me because, let's just take a guess. Nice. I forget people, like, have fathers at all, actually. It's always a weird one to me when someone like growing up would be like, oh no, maybe I'll go. I have to ask my dad first. And I'm like, what the heck? You let a man live in your house? That's weird. But yeah, having a lot of experiences with uncomfortable things, you generally don't always want to be uncomfortable, right? So yeah, you look for things that make you laugh in horrible stuff. I think that's why I like shows like Shrinking so much, right? Like, it doesn't pay this almost unfitting seriousness to serious topics, because a lot of things, again, in real life that I know, like from the outside, maybe looking in, right? You think, oh, this has to be the absolute highest seriousness possible. You know, some things like the death of a parent or something you'd expect to be treated like working at a Holocaust museum, and you have to tiptoe around everything and always look solemn and keep in mind the seriousness of what you're doing. But sometimes you just got to laugh and be like, no, like, he was kind of a dick, wasn't he? Or, oh, that stupid thing. Or at least we don't have to deal with that now. Like, you can't get past the fact that something awful has happened. That's happened. That's anyone who has ever had something awful happen can, I imagine, sympathize with the unshakable permanence of the thing. Making a joke about it isn't going to undo it, but it does give you a degree of ownership over how you're going to feel about it or how it gets to make you feel. And I've always found that a useful and realistic thing. That being said, it's interesting when you're trying to like talk with folks and you come at grief from this very accepting the mess kind of perspective. Because a lot of folks sometimes take that as an insult, right? Like you're undermining the pain or you're discrediting it or something. And I get it. I just feel differently, ultimately. Oh god, no, Monica, I didn't want a backflip. I wanted a flurry of sword attacks of the elephant. Thank you. A geostone? Nice. You know, on a more positive note, after I've gotten healthy, I decided to get a a Retroid Pocket 5. I don't know if anyone's into like pocket emulators and this type of tech. I'm an eternal like finicker with tech. I love just like tinkering and playing around with things, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what can I get things to do, and that's always been a lot of fun for me. It's probably why, like, really early on in life, I started getting into emulation. It's not nearly as strong as I was hoping it would be, but whatever. So yeah, I got the Retroid Pocket 5, and I've been loving it. I've been playing a lot of games on the couch and just chilling. It's interesting because this is actually the first time in my life I've ever dealt with an Android system. I've kind of just, I don't know, not used them before. And it's not like I'm actually an OS purist or anything like that. I use and can use basically everything. I have like a personal Windows machine. I have a personal Linux machine. I use iOS. I can use Mac OS. I have an Android device. I have an iPhone. This maybe indicates the reality of my working in software. I have strong preferences, don't get me wrong, but it's all kind of tools. If somebody is like saying, you know, you can only work professionally in like Windows, for example, they don't understand computers very well. Is it easier, in my opinion, to work in Windows compared to like Mac? Yeah, totally is. I'm kind of the opinion that like iOS and Mac OS are distinct, but even iOS has some caveats that I'm like, about, even though I like the phones, right? Like I think Apple Silicon is tremendous. Apple hardware is hardcore and very, very fun. It's fast, it's snappy, it's push forwards. Things don't really make much sense, but they've pushed them for so long that now they're viable, which I think is hilarious, right? Like, I can't explain how funny I think a lot of Apple hardware is, because it really takes a singular vision dedicated to being different to get as far as they have with it. Just because, like, I think the standard economy of tech, the way of looking at things, like going with the trends, going with what works, going with kind of more in vogue technology. But Apple was like, no, I don't care. We're going to make ARM processors work. We're going to bash our head against this brick wall until we eventually get through, and you will all be impressed with our sheer determination to get through the wall. And lo and behold, we are, right? The M series of chips are incredibly impressive. All of that stuff. But if we stop talking about Apple hardware and we start looking at Apple UIs, complete crap. Like, I will say I think Linux is the cleanest user space that's out there. Regardless of your distro, I think if you're using a Linux distro, doesn't matter if you build something yourself with Arc, you're using Mint like most people are, you're Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, Red Hat, whatever, I don't care. I think your user space is generally going to be cleaner than the Windows or the Mac OS user space. And the UI is going to be more functional. That's my opinion, right? You don't have to agree with it, but I'm just saying, like, when I look at the difference between my desktop on Linux and my desktop on my Windows machine, I can tell which one is cleaner, which one I press a button and it does exactly what I need it to do, compared to it opening up some random jargon menu with crap I don't need or have to click through now. Big differences there. I think some folks have misunderstandings of a lot of OSs, if I can just like go on a tech rant. Like, I've had coworkers And you know what? I'll admit I had this misconception years and years ago, right? Like before I really got into computer science as a subject, that they think Linux is like a computer system from 1988, and everything is terminal based. And if you can't use the terminal to go through and open up all of your files, and you don't know every command for Vim, you're screwed. And it's just not the case nowadays. You know, like Linux, I would say you could pop on like Linux Mint or even one of the others, you know, take Fedora or Debian or something, whatever. One of those like vanilla distros. Take one of those, you plop it onto somebody's machine who's been using Windows for a while. You swap where their taskbar is. You put their start menu in the bottom left corner. They're going to be able to use that computer to do 90% of the things that they want to do anyways, and they're not going to have an issue because most of the computer experience is browser based nowadays, right? I feel like the folks who don't or couldn't entirely switch over to a different operating system usually have some legitimate distinction or program compatibility issue that's preventing them from doing a switch. But it's not like they're like, oh man, I can't do it because X dumb reason. Like usually there's something very specific if people understand operating systems and why they can't use one over the other. But even as someone who, doesn't like Mac for user space reasons, I still can agree that the machines themselves are perfectly competent computers. I don't have to agree with the business practices of Apple, where they solder down half of the crap on their motherboard and you can't open it, repair it, or upgrade it. You can't even usually service or clean it all that well. It's a product that's made to be thrown out effectively, and that sucks. Not a big fan of that. But the hardware's strong. It is impressive. Okay, well, I guess, does it matter what day that I'm here, a day or night? I'll go through the day, just like start off, but also, did I beat everything now, or I don't know, man. Just kind of getting distracted, chilling and grinding, playing the game. Oh god, how dare I just enjoy playing the game? This floor was also full of like really difficult things. I'm quite pleased that I actually managed to crunch through the way I did. Hello, take this meat. Cool. Okay. So I can only imagine that, that's the night path. The day path is not much longer, so I guess that's a good idea to kind of like go that way, right? I guess we can switch off to give Max a little bit of a go here, because, well, he didn't get any experience that run. No, cool. Yeah, this is, I think I just recently upgraded to this wrench, so this is pretty good. Nice. Cool. Beautiful. You know, if I can just speak really briefly to it, though, I think there's there's something that comes up a lot because obviously I love video games and I end up in video game adjacent spaces like forums and online community posts or whatever. Although I want to point out there is a hilarious level of misunderstanding, I think, when it comes to people who are talking about like changes the game should be made, how decisions are made, how software companies work in general. And there's so much misunderstanding there in general. Oh, okay, cool. Double angels. That, I don't know, man. I don't, what I'm getting at here is I think the video game community really needs to kind of make a change in how it's collecting its information and what it's kind of like valuing. Because people have always had an issue where they kind of just defer to whatever popular opinion is present and they don't make their own. And it's tough to say that reviews are bad, but I think people are overly giving away their agency and choice and sacrificing media literacy, like in the process. The kind of, oh, fuck. Damn. Oh, yeah, I didn't expect Crisis so suddenly. Yeah, I probably can't revive my guy, eh? Oh god, that's bad. Oh yeah. Oh jeez. All right. We're just gonna ignore that, hopefully. But yeah, people don't understand how software companies work, and I think that leaves a lot of room for bad actors or people who are kind of coming in with like a pseudo-intelligent perspective to talk about how these companies work, how decisions are made, how the technology can be employed. Oh yeah, I should have probably thought ahead of that. Oh well, I saved before coming to this level. I'll be right back. Okay, cool. Let's try this again. Yeah, it's just sometimes folks, say, why did the developers make this choice? And even that statement alone, right, is kind of hilarious. Because do you think the developers get to choose what they want to do? Like, if they started the company, for example, right, and there's like 5 guys in the company and they're all developers, then yeah, sure. In the indie scene, maybe that makes sense because the developer is also the project manager, is also the CEO, is also HR and whatever, right? But in like a big company, bro, developers are just people who were hired and took a job. Like, they have no choice over what does and doesn't get developed. That's like a business choice way above their head, right? The issue that I think we should be like campaigning against is people who don't have creative or artistic insights into the process getting to make choices about creative stuff or technology stuff. That's the biggest issue in software, is the overt need to validate business people who don't really contribute anything to the process, right? Like, they've injected themselves into the process so they could argue, oh no, we need to be here because who's going to blurg the blurgs and whatever. But like, when you actually look at like the mechanical processes involved in making the product, testing it, developing it, writing it, doing all that like stuff, the business people have no involvement. And typically, the involvement they have is negative or pointless. And, you know, this is true in a lot of artistic mediums. I will agree to the critique that artistic people aren't always scheduled focused, and they might not always have achievable like focuses and stuff like that. I agree with that. I don't think all creatives have like the ability to consistently put forward deliverables. But even all of those metrics, like those are the goalposts of business people, right? I don't think a creative person who values story and emotion and fun, in the case of a video game, has ever been like, oh, you know what? This game is really, really good, but I can just like feel the return on investment wasn't there. Like, there's nobody enjoying video games who's just like, oh, I'm having a great time, but what were the metrics behind this? That's not actually valuable when it comes to art, right? The injection of schedules and time and making a product that even has business appeal, those are all things that have kind of detracted from art and made it this commodified business of things. There are cases where like you're working in software that's not creative, where the business perspective is more helpful because it helps guide people who maybe like me are very technology or facts based, and I just don't know where to put business logic because I would never put it there myself to begin with, right? Like it just means if you're somebody who's used to, say, if someone was like, hey, I need you to build this web page and I need the web page to be the absolute best it might be, you might be thinking of 1,000 different elements. But you may never think that like something has to work a little bit less great so as to appease some business need or some demand from a client. You may never consider doing something a slower, worse way because the business that wants to use it has tech debt that's 10, 15 years in the making. So it is useful to have people like project managers and business associates and stuff like that when you have to deal with and build in business logic to what you're doing. I don't think that's deniable. There's a lot of developers who are in these types of industries who begrudge those people because they've gone to the opportunities that they're in, not for some sort of like creative satisfaction like you might find in video games or movies or whatever, but for the money of mechanically doing computer science. So when there's people who are not computer science forward trying to impact your money-making potential, that's frustrating. But it's not usually like a cruel stomp on your heart like it is in creative worlds,
where maybe you can't use a character because people are afraid of offending a certain percentage of an audience or something like that, right? Different worlds for sure. And there is a time and a place. You know, I think marketing is a great place for folks who are business-minded, because it lets them be creative adjacent without inherently threatening, I'll say, the soul of the work. Holy crap with the mimics. What is going on? I'll say I get confused with business stuff because I feel like sometimes when I try to view things through that lens, then it like changes or something, right? Like I've had times where like I've prepared reports or whatever. And it was like, okay, so I wanted to look at this through the business perspective. So here's the business analysis of the situation and the metrics and the numbers. And this is what, through that lens, I believe is the right choice to do. And then it'll be like, oh, no, yeah, we've decided that we're just going to ignore that today. Or we're going to do something else for a different business reason that wasn't included here, but don't worry about it. That's more important. And it's, you know, it is the way that things go. But as someone who's like usually viewing business logic as another language altogether, it makes it even more confusing because I'm like, was there an accent I missed? Like what? Why was I wrong? I thought I did the metrics. So yeah, it gets confusing. I think a lot as well. Business logic and the business world is really like the home of neurotypical perspectives, right? There's a lot of invisible social standards that go into business interactions. There's a lot of expectation of being able to understand that sort of interaction. And you, from my observation, lose points asking about it. So yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I probably will never be a businessman, you know? I will probably always be business adjacent. I can do my best, but, you know, people are always sorted into groups.
All right.
I'm a
That takes care of
technician.
you guys.
I'm a doer. I don't, and I never really have understood the core metric thing where like, and I've seen this in tons of organizations and whatever. You set goals, you create a bunch of terms to explain those goals, usually abbreviations. Oh, these are the GBDs, these are the ABADs or whatever, right? Like you make up stuff like that. Those are all random examples I made up. But you have something like that. Usually you make it something that's like not achievable. Typically what I've seen. Like it's a number that's too high. It's an outcome that's too implausible. But you set it there anyways. And then a whole year comes and you get close, but not all the way. And you go, you know, well, we made all these changes and we did all this great stuff. It was such a good year. And then here's the things we're going to do to maybe hit this now increasingly harder goal to hit that we didn't hit last year. But we're going to try to hit this year. And instead of setting like a reasonable, achievable goal, it's always something that's just slightly out of reach. So like if there's a benefit to be paid, or there's some greater achievement to be unlocked from hitting these impossible goals, you always just miss it. But the more realistic, achievable, good goals, those are always hit. But they're never what you're trying to hit. And I guess some people view that as like shoot for the stars, be happy to land somewhere in the sky or whatever. But I guess to my personality type, it just seems like a lot of emotional attachment to something that is designed to end like a failure ultimately, you know, like a B plus. But that is how it goes. I guess there's some value there, or it's working for someone. But I just like, I've had this of things with, like, you're in a company and they're explaining a policy. Sometimes I feel like people, maybe other people prefer the over explanation and here's this, and this is why I'm here, and here's our prepared answer and all that stuff. I kind of just like facts to be laid out. You know, I once had an HR person say to me, yeah, that's just what it is. They said it politely, don't get me wrong, but they're like, yeah, like that's just what it is. And then I could like sense them preparing to say more, and I just stopped them. I was like, no, that makes sense. That's great. That's all I need to hear. Like, that's what it is. All right. That's the end of the discussion. When you're not a business person and someone starts like using these businessy explanations for stuff, like it really pulls the other way. Like, I know maybe it's just my personality type, right? When somebody says something like, you know, this is just the business need, or I once had somebody say, oh no, we didn't actually fire anyone important because they were just contractors. So those jobs weren't real jobs that we got rid of. And like when people talk about stuff like that, and then like they try and use the business justifications that work for them because they're business minded people, to people like me who just don't think that way, it comes across as like, yeah, we turned them into dog food because they really fit in the can and it just made the most sense to do. Like, that's how it always comes across. And I'd rather people just say, yeah, that's what we did because it's what we had to do, compared to, well, you recognize that if we take everybody's kneecaps and then turn them into a beautiful necklace, the chittering raises prices by about 5% and the ABBBs turn into, like, it's just like, stop with your business logic. Be a human being, please. I don't know, like, that's, I always call it a language. And I've had, like, leaders and stuff throughout time be like, no, it's not a language. It's just, I don't know what they're trying to say. Because, like, I don't think people are meeting me halfway when I say that. They're so ingrained in this being the way you do things, right? Like, the dogma of it all, the essential set facts, the immutable nature of how things are done, that they don't really just look at it as a weird agreed upon set of ways to do stuff. Or, you know, the age old, their jobs rely on it, so they can't misunderstand it because they don't want to. It's important to them to have this misunderstanding because that's a core of how you make money. But yeah, I've never really like, and again, this goes to show like that technician part of my brain, right? Like how I think about these things. I don't know how someone could go, well, my options are build a career on a practiced technical skill that I can see, observe, replicate, and get good at, or just talk about a bunch of hubbub all the time and pretend every single skill can be explained to me in a 15-minute blurb by somebody who actually knows it and whose skill set I'm going to undervalue. I know what I'm going to do. And then, like, they become a business person. I just like, I've never understood. Okay, this is my big like disconnect, right? I'm very honest when it comes to work and stuff like that. I can enjoy the work that I'm doing, but I don't dream about working. So I want money. Like, that is why I'm working. I don't get satisfaction out of working. I don't feel like I'm such a great human being who's contributing to the system. Oh my God. I just feel so purposeful. No, I don't care. I want money. Pay me. That is why I work. It's why I work well. It's why I work hard. Anything else is not what I work for. Oh, lost my thing. So I guess, like, because I'm so cutthroat when it comes to money, I don't really get it when business people aren't that way. Because, like, my understanding of the way they look at things and, like, the skill sets they have and the things they've practiced and learned, that should be, like, their whole deal, too, right? Like, just, like, brutal objectivism focused on cash. Like, maybe this is the Star Trek nerd in me, but I kind of see the desire to go to like business school to be the same as like being a Ferengi. Like, you are following the rules of acquisition. You are literally dedicating your life to the pursuit of and study of commerce. Your entire existence, if you choose to be a business person, is focused on creating wealth, managing wealth, distributing wealth, talking about wealth, money. That's it, right? So when business people do anything other than go like, this choice will make me more money, I get so lost in their motivations. Like, I guess I just don't understand, like, why someone would become a business person. You know, they're like, oh, I've just always wanted to fix things. Like, why didn't you become an engineer, a doctor, a writer? Why aren't you working in charities, right? Like, I guess I always kind of misunderstand that application of skills. Because it's not like Frankie, I think her character name is in the later seasons of Community, who's like, I have the personality of an administrator, and I use that stability to help the people who don't have that skill achieve the unique and amazing and beautiful things that they are trying to achieve, right? Like, that's the core of that character. That's an awesome, largely unrealistic look at business people and administrators, right? From my opinion and from my experiences, like, the typical business person is someone who has focused only on business and abbreviations and how to talk about metrics and, you know, how many meetings a day you should be having and how you should always be busy but never seem to be getting anything done. That should be your focus. And then just completely diminutizing everybody else. That's an important part. Like, there's no skill set that's actually sacred or difficult or requiring of study. Everything can be learned by a business person in a brief like explanation with a few meetings in between. That's what I've kind of gathered is the perspective. But like, how do you merge those ideas without being brutally cutthroat about cash? I don't know. It's just not meant for me, right? That's why I focus on just getting stuff done and learning concrete facts and making it happen. Nice.
All right. That takes care of you guys.
that was something like, I'll share this lesson now. If you're a technical person, and more important, if you're a neurodivergent person like me, don't tell business and leadership people that you don't know why they are useful. Because I've done that. And it doesn't grow great. It's almost like you're invalidating their entire existence or something. Crazy. Who would have thought? But I've made that mistake so many times, and the first few times I ever did it, I really honestly didn't realize I was being rude. Because I was just like, I had a boss once ask me, well, what would you like from me? And I just like really honestly started going down the list. I'm like, well, you don't know anything technically, so I can't ask you that. You haven't done the job that I'm doing, so you don't know any of the specifics of what I'm trying to do or how to do it. You can't give me advice there. I'm not sure if you know how to do this. You don't know about this. You're not aware of this thing. So I guess, can you do paperwork for me? And then like, that was me honestly just trying to find something to let them feel helpful. It's like, oh man, you want to like participate. Okay, let me think of something that you could do for me. Yes. So don't do that. It's a negative. Doesn't go across very well. But, you know, no one told me these lessons, right? These are social lessons that I guess other people just like inherently learn or they pick up from society, but I've just never had that. So to this day, people will like enter my life and they'll have like titles or some sort of social renown behind them. And I have to stop myself asking the question like, hi, why are you important? Like, why are you even here? Do we like care about you, or like air quotes care about you? Because it's just not obvious to me. It never has been. And yeah, it's definitely been an issue historically in my life. It has gotten me in trouble. It has made me say the wrong thing. And it's usually very innocent, which is why I think I have gotten away without too much punishment overall. Because I think at a certain point, most people have been able to tell, oh, he's not trying to undermine me. He literally doesn't know why I'm important, for better or worse. It is what it is. I also like a lot of context. So I've historically throughout my life, like asked a lot of questions about things. And I've never really been told, like, you can't ask X person a question because of some reason, right? Oh, cutscene, cool.
Anything here?
No.
It's a dead end. But it feels like something should be here.
Wow, okay. Great. Let's save again. Yeah, so that's another trick I'll give to people. You know, if you're entering a professional environment, and like me, you just tend to ask a lot of questions because you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. You understand why you're doing it. You understand what it's supposed to look like when it's done, what done looks like, all of that stuff, right? Oh. Well, I guess, whatever. Tell people that you like context. Be belligerent sometimes with saying, hi, I am not trying to undermine you. I just want to make sure I understand my position in this goal or mission or assignment. Make it very clear. that you are not insulting anybody's authority or disrespecting them. Because while this seems like a frivolous thing to you, and ultimately it kind of is, it's very important to these business people. It's essential. They, you have to understand that, like, or try to understand that when your kind of like internal theory of authority isn't based on the fact that you can prove you have all the right answers, like a maybe if you're a technically minded person, that's not going to win you anything in a conversation. What the perceived authority and respect and everything is kind of the ability to, like, be unquestioned. Whether that's good or not, it's just the reality of it. And you sometimes have to temper your desire to seek the best answer with your understanding that your pursuit of the best answer is emotionally infringing on what somebody feels like is their position or right to be at the top of the good things happening. So just let them know that you're on their side, that you are an ally of their success, not a detractor. Because, and this sounds rude, I'm not trying to be rude, they are not used to having to have all the right answers before doing what they want to do. They arrive at conclusions in alternate methods. I cannot explain those methods to you because they are beyond me. But trust that there is logic there, apparently. And try not to get too frazzled. I think it's good to know as well, if people don't know what the right answer looks like, sometimes you can get caught up trying to debate the pursuit of the right answer when you're actually debating something else. And sometimes if you can identify what that thing is, somebody needs to feel heard, they want a concern addressed, they want something to take into perspective a certain solution or perspective. The actual subject matter that you're debating or discussing, they don't care. And if you just address the core thing that they do care about, then you can go ahead and fix whatever random technical thing you want. And they won't even, it's not even a problem. They won't even be upset. You just have to listen to whatever it is. It may seem insignificant to you, but learning to adjust your priorities based on the needs of others is an important skill set. That being said, you know, every now and then you're going to be asked to do something that doesn't make any sense, and you're going to debate out of the wall, and a bunch of people are going to agree with you, and they're going to go, yep, that doesn't make any sense. And you're going to have to do it anyways. This is just what it is. My advice is pick your battles, man. If it's not a big deal, don't let it be a big deal. Don't let it derail you. Don't let it take you further down than it needs to. If it is a big deal, cover your ass. Make sure that it's very clear that you did not want to do the thing, that somebody asked you to do it, that you are doing it on their behest, and let it go. Sometimes letting something fail is as important as doing something well. What is Eevee? Is it like another fish thing? Yeah, it looks like a shrimp or something. Ah, all right. I'll be right back for a sec. Ooh, all right. Yeah, I'm still just getting over a cold, so Every now and then, my base needs to be emptied. Ugh. You know, it's funny, I'm being kind of negative. And it's not my intention. Maybe you just gotta rant every now and then and get it out of your system. Cool. Maybe, you know, we all have our own causes for respect and stuff like that. I, like, had a period in my life where there was physical abuse and quite aggressive physical abuse at times like that. I can recall sleeping in the basement tied to support pillars in my own blood. I've been thrown downstairs. I have cuts and bruises and fun experiences. And I only really mention it because it affected how I view authority. I'm basically not afraid of authority, and I'm not really, like, I have trouble respecting anything that I don't already respect. You have to earn that from me. No title, no statement, no threat is really going to make me respect you. And you can't even really beat me into submission. If you're going to hit me, I'd rather you just get it out of the way so I can go ahead to ignoring you. I'm not scared of physical pain that way. And actually getting hit is usually one of the quickest pains out there, right? Like, if you've ever experienced, like, a stomach bug, for example. Like, geez, I'd rather get punched in the face than have a stomach bug. At least it's over in a few moments, right? Sure, you may have a bruise or a bit of soreness. But beats the heck out of crapping yourself for a few days straight or whatever. And even then, sure, if somebody hits me, I'm not gonna think they're a better person. I don't respect them now. Maybe if you beat me hard enough, I'll get out of your way if I'm trying to oppose you. But it doesn't really change anything. And that's one of the upsides, I guess, of having had violence in your early life, is the threat isn't that great when you know what it feels like. Like, if you're gonna kill me, that's not great. That's scary. I don't want to be killed. But if you're just gonna punch me a bunch and be mean to me, all right, get it over with. Go ahead, you know? It's not the end of the world. I know I'll make it. I'm living proof that I will. So that type of thing never really had much pull. The downside is that, like, I'm completely incapable of understanding mundane fears of authority. Like, if I'm at a point where someone can beat me and all they've achieved is beating me, my perspective on them hasn't changed, my respect hasn't changed, I'm not going to change my mind, I'm going to go down thinking what I think. Because I'll change my mind for the right information. I want to make that very clear. If somebody is right, I'm already going to agree with them. I will respect them. I go with the right answer. But you can't intimidate me into that. I'm not just going to respect someone because they said respect me. So when physical violence is already out of it, you can't scare me into it. The impression that, you know, a lot of people have of, like, titles being very important, and even age. Like, I don't respect age. I don't care. Getting old isn't hard. Just means staying out of the way for long enough and eating meals every day. Like, it's not, you know, you're not blowing my mind here. Those things in society tend to be super respected. And people will, like, I don't know, act in reverence of people for like random things that don't really mean all that much. Like, let's take an example of somebody I really respect, right? Jane Fonda. If you don't respect Jane Fonda, like, fuck you, man. Jane Fonda is a badass. Look at her body of work, right? The things she's done, the things she's overcome, the all the accomplishments she's had, the anger, the political through line that she has kept up. Even now, you know, accepting her Lifetime Acceptance Awards at the SAG-AFTRA thing very recently. Jane Fonda is a badass, a consistently respectable badass. And all she did was respectable, challenging stuff. She worked hard. She did a lot of political work. Her work in acting is phenomenal. You know, she's still to this day such a competent speaker, right? Like, I don't know if anyone else has worked with a lot of old people. I used to work in a retirement home, so I've been around people who are, you know, very much at the end of life or going through their third, fourth, fifth act. And there isn't always a consistency in the mind. Sometimes people lose a little bit of themselves. Sometimes people can't continue to be as sharp as they want to. But goddamn, dude, like Jane Fonda, holy shit, still doing it. That's so impressive to me. Heck, I met a great aunt the other day, and she's in her 80s. And I was so impressed with how like present she was, if that makes any sense. That's respect right there. You don't have to go punch something or do some crazy engineering feat for me to respect you. You can just be a consistent person that believes in themselves and believes in good things and does all that work, and that's respectable. What I don't like is when somebody hides behind a title or some commissioned rank, you know? If you didn't earn it, you don't get it. And that's how I am with respect. That's why I've never jived with like those old men. They're like, if you don't respect me, I'm not going to respect you. I'm like, what have you done to respect me, bro? You just like come in here and want me to treat you like God. And if I don't, you're not going to treat me like a person. Like, that sucks. Doesn't seem to be very of the logic of respect.
Looks like we got 'em all.
Looks like we got them all. Awesome. Oh man, I'm out of space for ride pod fuel, or I just have it maxed. I don't know. Oh man, I don't know. I'm gonna just hit random. I'm looking away and closing my eyes. I'm gonna take.
Very good.
What did I take? All right, I got fish. Cool. Let's go out the night path now, so I can get the upper level of the dungeon. All right, well that's awesome. Let's see here now. Probably where I'll just about call it. Decent progress in this one. I was mostly just yapping this whole time. Clearly I needed to get my Let's Play ranting out. That's what this is. You thought you were watching a video on Dark Cloud 2. No, you just accidentally snuck my journal and read it, you creep. Nah, thanks for watching. I will hopefully keep up at it. You know, work and life and craziness. You know, hopefully Canada doesn't get attacked or something here. Jeez, I'm of draft age. That'll suck. But we haven't had a draft for years, so hopefully not. What a positive note to end things on. Thanks for watching some Dark Cloud 2 here, and see you around the next one. Bye.